Boom, White House. So this is about as close as we can get to the White House. With the kind of the riots and other things going on. Those areas I was talking about, it's like hard to understand what justice really looks like in our own eyes. We think, and then we swing the pendulum, maybe not far enough or too far. And so here we are, 2020, and it's tough, really tough. My production crew, they're leaving me.
Over now.
That's what it looks like to put together a real documentary, a real film. You have like 3 or 4 dudes carrying all your equipment, and here I am with tripod, bike, and background. Bonus. Grant you, this is a pretty big statue. Quite a sight to behold. Here we are at DC, and the sun is coming up. The sun is just Washington Monument from a distance. Capitol building behind me, and thinking about missional shift. And here we are at the hinge point of the United States government, and thinking about the matrix of the last couple hundred years, plus or minus, of where this continent, country was founded on, and where we are today, and where has that matrix shifted, as far as a governing authority. And I think about a governor, and my son Trey has this go-kart, and there's something about reaching back and releasing the governor to where you have full throttle. And that's part of the shift, or the matrix shift, as we're thinking about some of that. What is that to reach back and grab the governor to have full gas, full throttle in it? And I think in some ways, and this is just my own processing, how have we in the last couple hundred years just pulled back and released the governing agent? And fascinating to think about in a large scale, the matrix of, and I think I'm so glad and privileged to have grown up in the United States. We got friends that are from overseas, and they haven't had the privilege like we have, processing not only like the governor, processing not only the government, but also what does that look like in my community, in my tribe, my family, me personally. Like what are those governing agents, and have I released them all? And thinking about different seasons of our lives, and where we need to reach back and gain control again, or what that looks like. God intended us to have great freedoms and liberties in this, and I think our country of all places has been able to explore what that looks like in a human experiment. And so, but there's still a question of what does that look like when it's in full throttle versus when we pull back. by far is my favorite memorial here in DC. So I've been processing injustices, and so there's a measurable shift, I think, even in my own heart, of what I think is just and right and fair. What is just? What is right? Left to my own demise, man, we're all a mix of good and bad, right and wrong. And even in our best days of thinking what's just and right and equitable, I'm glad I don't stand as judge. And ultimately, God does that. But we're his stand-in. He, from the beginning in the garden, he wanted us to have dominion and to rule with wisdom, trying to find that humility, that sobering humility of representing on his behalf. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. did that very well. As a good representative, like he's head and shoulders above many that I think of who have turned the tide and has a measurable shift within our culture. So thinking again in our communities, in our tribes and family and personally, what is that measurable shift where I realize that my measure of justice and rightness is still below the standard of which God measures what's just and fair and right. Always giving a room for that margin of error, even when I think or perceive, or in my worldview and my Judeo-Christian background even, that I think I know what's right, but yet there's still this area where got to give room for God to have the freedom, especially when we disagree with other people. And it's just a beautiful thing to trust God and his rightness and his justice. Paul reminded me that not of a righteousness of my own, but a righteousness that comes by faith in God. And that's justice.